All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. This is the debut of my own podcast, Hoops IQ Check, starring Harrison Arens. And throughout the show, too, as it goes on over the summer, I'll bring in a few guests as well. But with this first one, I want to open it up here with just myself kind of running through here what this show is going to necessarily contain. Every Thursday going from 9 to 10 p.m., you can join me, and we're going to talk everything hoops. And, you know, I don't want to just talk about everything recent, although today, obviously, we'll be honing in on the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat as in the finals. You just have to talk about it before we get to the true drought of NBA. And then we can get a little bit of college stuff as that starts to ramp up as we get closer to fall. But like I said, in the meantime, if you guys want to join the show, talk hoops with me, feel free to do so. Starter Heyman text line, that's 402-464-5685. Same thing as the Honda of Lincoln hotline, same number, 402-464-5685. You can also watch me if you want to put a face to the voice on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, as well as Allo Channel 951. So like I said, definitely feel free to join the show, and I'll read you guys' texts and comments as they come in, if they're good. You know, as long as the only rule is no nonsense, no swearing, and you're free to say as you will by any means. But nonetheless, I kind of want to dive right into it, and we'll push aside our reactions from Game 3, mainly for the fact that the Miami Heat lost. So it kind of hurts the subject I want to bring up. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Miami Heat, and deservedly so, have been getting the title, at least by some people, that this is one of the greatest playoff runs we've ever seen, including myself. An A seed that is horrible in the regular season, that gets blown out in their first play-in game by the Atlanta Hawks of all people, and then barely beats the Chicago Bulls with about 3 minutes remaining in the second play-in game. They almost lost right there, and they put together in about 3 minutes on the second play-in game to ensure they get the A seed. They managed to beat the Bucks. A little bit of, you know, obviously Giannis is hurt for the first game, and second game, I believe he was hurt all the way up until game 3, I want to say. I think they went 2 games without Giannis. Third game, he finally came back, but it was too late. Miami Heat did what they needed to do, and even with Giannis, just the shooting was really bad for him, and they're already in a hole. You let the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, all those guys kind of get in a rhythm, and that regular season shooting number doesn't even matter. You know, if they're feeling it, they're feeling it. But nonetheless, like I said, you knock off those guys, you find a way, you beat the Knicks, then you beat the Celtics in Game 7, and this is a team that showed absolutely no reason to bet on them going into the playoffs. You know, it was a long shot by a lot of means. If you want to go with the Miami Heat, you know, you were thought of as crazy. So this is why I want to bring this up, right? We're looking at the Miami Heat as this is the most, if not one of the most improbable playoff runs. I want to go back in time a little bit to 1995, a team that, you know, I'm not sure how many people really would think of as a team with improbable runs. We're talking about the Houston Rockets, who would win the finals in 95. But the reason I say this run was improbable, it wasn't that they're a bad team. What I'm weighing here is the road they had to the finals. For anyone out there that was alive during the 95 finals that remembers and watched it, I'd love to tap your ear on that one. Definitely feel free to call if you remember that playoff series in particular, because the reason I'm bringing this up, that team, out of all the teams in the past 5 years, or excuse me, not past 5 years, since today, 95 till today, they went through by far one of the most brutal playoff runs. First round, you got to think, the Houston Rockets, they're all, this is the Hakeem era, right? First round, Trailblazers, they beat them. Trailblazers record 44-38. All right, that's probably the only team on there that you'd call a sleeper. But the Rockets are coming in there, you know, and as the higher seed, and they're playing at Trailblazers with a 44-38 record in the first round. Okay, you get past them. You go on to the Suns in the second round with a 59-23 record. And they got Charles Barkley and Dan Marjolie. So that right there, you take off another 59-23 record team. You know, Charles Barkley, he wanted a finals ring so bad. This is a year he had a shot. But this improbable run by this Houston Rockets team kind of dissolved that. Moving on. Third round, you go to the Spurs. The record gets better. 62-20 record. And you're going up against Moses Malone And shout out Doc Rivers. He was actually on that roster as well in 95. And Avery Johnson. Again, Moses Malone doesn't need a ton of conversation. The guy averaged 15 rebounds a game through his entire career. Moses Malone was an absolute machine. And there's a reason why they had a 62-20 record. Moses Malone, the dominant force that he was, deserves a lot of credit. And then the final round, you go up against the Orlando Magic. Now, we think of the Magic today as a team that's easy. That's the Magic era where they have Shaq, a good Shaq too. So that's kind of what I'm laying out here. You play a team, first round, 44 wins. Second round, you're playing a team with 59 wins. Third round, you're playing a team with 62 wins. And in the finals, you're playing a team with 57 wins. All of that right there tells you how historical of a run that was for the Houston Rockets. So when we're measuring these greatest playoff runs, are we measuring, level of difficulty or just pure underdog? Because although the Rockets, you don't want to say they were underdogs, it was just a very improbable road. Even if they were a solid team, to go through that loaded Western Conference and then just get to the Eastern, get to the finals, meet the Eastern Conference Finals champion in the Magic, who had at the time in solid shape Shaquille O'Neal. Good luck. But there they were, Houston Rockets. They win it, 95, and it just sets up, historically one of the greatest ones we've ever seen. I think that'd be a good 30 for 30. If ESPN wanted to ever do that, that is a era of stars that I think kind of gets forgotten in recent NBA history. And we're going through that, and it's kind of good to start with this 95 season too, because Mike Breen kind of had some outlandish comments, and I'll agree with Van Gundy on this one. He was essentially comparing Jokic to Moses Malone in terms of his rebounding, Dirk in terms of his shooting, and it's just not true. I know Jokic is a great player. He also compared his passing to Magic. So I'll give him Magic's passing. I still think Magic Johnson is the best passer of all time. I'd have to see more of Jokic consistently to kind of flip that for me. But he'll definitely be in the conversation. I think that one is the least bit outlandish. For everything Jokic does passing, it's especially from the big position, it's all things we've never really seen before. So that one, okay, we can maybe dice that one up. But then to say he's the best, he's up there with Moses Malone in terms of rebounding, that's when it starts to get a little outlandish. I like Jokic. He is good at rebounding. But we're talking about Moses Malone, a guy that averaged 15 boards throughout, not a season, not 2 seasons, not his all-NBA seasons. No, through his entire career, 15 rebounds a game. That is incredibly reliable, and that's not even talking about his peaks when he's getting 20-plus rebounds. So just insane stuff from Moses Malone. It's not fair to compare Jokic to Moses Malone. Moses Malone is a better rebounder, and that's just period. You can't go that far with him. As much as I love Jokic, you cannot disrespect Moses Malone in that 99-5 or 95 era in particular, when he was really good, just on top of his game. Huge reason, his teams experienced a lot of success. If you can end possessions as consistently as they did, it just makes everything 10 times easier. You're eliminating offensive boards, you're eliminating extra possessions, you're saving energy, and just, again, you can't compare them there. And then the shooting one, it's a little closer, but if you actually break down the numbers, Dirk Nowitzki is still a better shooter by a fair margin too. Jokic efficiency-wise, he is better inside near the rim, but everything outside of there, not only is he less efficient than Dirk was, he also doesn't take as many shots. Jokic really focuses around the rim. He does take threes, and it's nothing to laugh at. Jokic, by all means, is an incredible shooter, and he should keep taking those deeper shots. But to say he's, the same shooting as Dirk, or he's at that same level as Dirk, it's another little bit of a stretch. So although it's a hot take, I don't think it's the worst hot take. Even though I disagree with it on all 3 levels, it is impressive that you still kind of have to dive into the numbers to really think about it. Moses Malone was the only easy one where you could be like, okay, that's a reach. But looking at Dirk and Magic, I had to really think, and I had to go through the numbers to find out, Is Mike Breen just saying crazy things to kind of sell the finals and Jokic, or is this true? And it was closer than I thought, especially with the Dirk numbers. The numbers are relatively close near the rim, mid range. Jokic is even better, and especially in those shorter areas. For me, though, it's just the attempts, the shot attempts outside. Jokic just has way less. Dirk has more, and yet Dirk's still more efficient the deeper he goes out. So you can't quite take that one away from Dirk. And Dirk, although he didn't flash it a lot, he had a deep bomb, something that Jokic never really shoots unless out of absolute desperation, which he will knock in once in a while. But Dirk could really extend outside the three-point line. And especially in today's era, you can only imagine what Dirk's game would look like. More green light to go ahead and shoot the deep ball. Just awesome stuff. So going through that 95 era, we're kind of wrapping it up here, talking about how it's important when you're talking about guys like Jokic and you're getting excited. We just saw game 3, Jamal Murray, Jokic, the first time ever 2 players on the same team got a triple-double. Just incredible stuff. And, I do want to bring up that box score now while we have the chance, just to kind of talk about how historical that performance really was between Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. Just awesome stuff. I actually have I have the Suns box score. I don't even know why that one's pulled up right there. I'll get it for you. But I do know Jokic, just a dominant game. They both had 30-plus points. They both had 10 assists. And obviously, they both had more than 10 rebounds. Jamal Murray had 10 rebounds on the dot. So he barely just scraped that triple-double in. But nonetheless, first time you see it. And it kind of makes you wonder, what are the Miami Heat going to do? How could they possibly bounce back from this? You look at how the Nuggets really found a way to shred apart that 2-3 zone using Jokic to just cause absolute havoc in the middle, and then just allowing that 2-man game between Jamal Murray and Jokic to flourish and really put them in a lot of pressure. It's the first time in a while where I was watching that Heat team and I thought they were going to go away from it. It's not looking good for the Miami Heat. I'll say that much. They're down 2-1 as it stands right now, and you did what you needed to do. You stole a game at home in Denver. You took game 2 in Denver away. So right there, you did everything you needed to. If you can come back from your first road trip in the series with stealing a win, you did yourself a ton of favors. The bad part is they dropped game 1 at home. And it didn't ever feel close. In the first quarter, it was kind of back and forth. But when you're watching, Christian Brown, I believe it is pronounced Christian Brown, despite the spelling. When you're watching a guy like Christian Brown, a rookie, not only play solid offense, but defensively too, getting steals, almost, weirdly enough, kind of playing that Sam Hoiberg role. Just comes in there, plays really good defense, takes timely shots, doesn't force anything, and look for the timely backdoor cuts. Just simple ways to make the game look easy. And I was really impressed by Christian Brown last night. And that's just something the Heat, although they can do those things, the skill level isn't the same. They have to be absolutely perfect. Almost flawless on defense if they're going to be able to continue to compete with this Nuggets team. I still think Nuggets win in 6. I've been on that hill for a while now. I was surprised that they were going to steal game 2 away from the Nuggets at home, but I'm still going to die on the hill that the Nuggets do win in 6. Again, going solo all the way up until 10 o'clock. If you guys want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. Feel free to do so that way, and you can put a face to the voice on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, as well as Allo channel 951 for all our Allo subscribers. And again, just an awesome run by the Nuggets. And saying the Nuggets are going to win in 6 brings me up to my next point. Another conversation we've been hearing a lot as this has gone on in the finals. You look at this Nuggets team, is this the best playoff team we've had in the past 5 years? The Nuggets, despite being solid year after year for the past 5 years, they've fallen short in the playoffs, so they haven't gotten the recognition, which is fair enough. Injuries, they're part of the game. Unfortunately, it's held them out a lot. When you have a healthy Jokic and a healthy Murray, this is the product. It's an NBA Finals caliber team. That is the product of a healthy Nuggets team. And if they continue to stay healthy, I don't think they're going to be worse next year. Right now, they're already pretty damn good. Which proves the point. Is this the best playoff team we've seen in the last 5 years? Let's go back in time. We'll go to last year. We got 21-22, the finals winner. You got the Golden State Warriors. So you got your Steph, Clay, and Draymond. And what I'm doing to compare these past 5 teams is just looking at the overall net rating in the playoffs alone, not the regular season, because that's going to skew your numbers. You don't know what the injuries are. You don't want to mess with that. So we get pure numbers, playoffs only. What is your net rating? Your net rating is your total offensive rating. So let's say my offensive rating is I score 120 points per 100 possessions. Okay, there's your offensive rating, 120. Then you go to your defensive rating. For every 100 possessions, I give up 110 points. So you got an offensive rating, 120, defensive rating of 110. Your net rating would be 10. So that's all that how it works. It's taking your defense and your offense, what's the number in the middle, and basically the only thing is you don't want to be negative. You don't want to have a negative differential, which all adds some more about this crazy Miami Heat one because, for instance, Miami Heat also had a negative net rating coming into the playoffs, which all just illustrates how bizarre this Miami run is. The Miami Heat came into the playoffs, I can't stress this enough, with a net negative rating. And they're in the NBA Finals, so you give them credit. But again, improbable run. It's fun to compare them with the 95 Rockets. You know, who had the harder route? Is it the Miami Heat because it was improbable? Or is it the Houston Rockets because of the gauntlet they had to go through? One of the toughest roads to the playoffs we've ever seen in NBA history. And in fact, it stands today as that is the team that's gone through playoff teams that racked up the most regular season wins. So it still holds the test of time. Fun one to look back on for all of you old school hoops fans. I remember the 95 season. Definitely go back, look that up and remember. But continuing with the net ratings. So the Warriors, 21-22. Overall net rating in the playoffs, 4.9. The Bucks going 2021 season. Overall net rating, 5.3. And that's with Giannis and Holiday, obviously, kind of the stars of that one. You throw Chris Middleton in there as well, along with all their shooters. Okay, so you got Warriors 4.9, Bucks 5.3. Moving on to the bubble year, 1920, Los Angeles Lakers, AD and LeBron, a solid net rating of 6.9. And that sounds about right. If you remember that playoffs, they actually did a pretty good job dominating all the way through. So you move on to the last one, 2018-19. You got the Raptors, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, net rating of 5.6. And then you go to this year's Denver Nuggets, a 7.9 net rating. So not just a jump, but a significant jump. They're beating the last best team, the Lakers, who had a 6.9 rating, net rating in the playoffs of the bubble year. You're beating them by a full point. So again, maybe we need to reevaluate how we look at this Denver Nuggets roster. Is this one of the best playoff teams we've seen in the past 5 years? Could this team beat the teams of the past 5 years? I think they could. I think the only one you maybe kind of double check would be the Lakers with AD and LeBron, just because how dominant they were in that run in the bubble. AD was just a different animal throughout that entire series. That was the AD I think everyone was kind of hoping to see this year. But unfortunately, the matchups, especially against the Nuggets, I think Jokic just really gave him a lot of problems. AD was able to get his points, how he would. Defensively, I think that's just exhausting, trying to constantly keep track of Jokic, being in the right position, watching your fouls as he's very good at just kind of drawing those fouls just by the unique way he shoots off the dribble, his post moves. It just kind of makes it a nightmare defensively. And I think that's what hurt AD. I think he had to spend a lot of effort and concentration on Jokic on the defensive end of the court. And he was still able to provide on offense, but those takeovers that the team so desperately needed from time to time just weren't really happening. But that being said, though, we will go ahead and throw it to our first break. Again, this is Harrison Arens on the Hoops IQ Check, going every Thursday from 9 to 10 p.m. Feel free to join in on the show. Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685, as well as watch the streams on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Like I said, I'm Harrison Arens. I'll be back right after this break.
Hey, moms and dads, bring the whole crew to a Salt Dogs baseball game and unleash the fun. Visit Haymarket Park all summer for fireworks Fridays, souvenir Saturdays, Sunday family fun days, and more. With 50 home games, even weekdays can be unforgettable. Planning an event? Make it a home run with group discounts. When you need an outing the whole family will enjoy, unleash the fun with the Salt Dogs. Call 402-474-2255 or visit saltdogs.com for tickets.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Long, but I didn't know where to start.
I was afraid of what people would think, but then I found the right support to start my recovery journey. 1 in 14 Americans reports experiencing a substance use disorder, a treatable medical condition. Treatment can take many forms, so there are a variety of options to explore and find the one that works best for you. Recovery from drug addiction is possible.
Paid for by the CDC, sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Our lives only have so much time, but if you smoke, you have less. Your life could be 10 years shorter, and the time you do have is often filled with health problems. Shortness of breath, asthma, COPD, and cancer. But the minute you quit, your body starts healing.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
My early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take, but it gave my mom and me more time to plan together.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time-to-talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Getting experience to jumpstart a meaningful career can be difficult, and education can cost a fortune. Luckily, AmeriCorps can be the solution. With AmeriCorps, you'll earn a stipend and education award while helping people. Plus, you'll gain professional skills and make connections to help you build your career. If you're ready to start a career you can be proud of, visit serve.nebraska.gov/service to find a program for you. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Getting experience to jumpstart a meaningful career can be difficult, and education can cost a fortune. Luckily, AmeriCorps can be the solution. With AmeriCorps, you'll earn a stipend and education award while helping people. Plus, you'll gain professional skills and make connections to help you build your career. If you're ready to start a career you can be proud of, visit serve.nebraska.gov/service to find a program for you. Paid for by Serve Nebraska, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Neil Armstrong waited 6 hours and 39 minutes to step onto the surface of the moon. Jackie Robinson waited 20 months to play his first game with the Brooklyn Dodgers. And even DiCaprio had to wait 22 years to win an Oscar. You can wait until your destination. Don't text and drive.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Dance like a dad. It's a great way to make a moment with your kids.
First, I hold my hands out like they're on a steering wheel. Then I look over my shoulder. Next, I put it in reverse.
Visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling. The limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into Ticket Weeknights. I am Harrison Arens, going solo all the way up until 10 o'clock. This is the Hoops IQ Check podcast starting today and going on every Thursday from here on out from 9 to 10 p.m. Appreciate you guys joining me. And again, if you guys want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line, text in 402-464-5685, as well as the Honda of Lincoln hotline, same number, 402-464-5685. And if you want to put a face to the voice, great way to do that is through Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter. You can watch the streams that way as we continue to discuss NBA, essentially, because we'll kind of save college for later on. Maybe next episode we'll start diving into some more college hoops. But for now, I want to stay on this track of the NBA. And just quick, before we dive into some more deep dive facts, I want to give you guys some quick ones that you can share around and sound smart to your friends when you're watching the next game. When you're watching game 4 and you want to pop in some facts that make you seem like you are an avid NBA fan and that you can tell everyone who's good, who's not good, who's the best, all that good stuff. Well, some quick ones for you. These are surrounding Jokic, because I think, again, people are finally starting to understand how good this guy is. It's insane. This guy, we did the comparison earlier. Mike Breen, a little over the top, compared him to Malone, Magic, and Dirk in terms of his shooting, passing, and rebounding. He's not quite as good as all those guys in those categories, but he's close. And that's a pretty damn scary product to have all of those combined. Even if it's not as good as those guys, if it's, the fact that it was even a debate, that's a scary thing. And these stats kind of tell you why. So, first one, the most efficient play in the last 10 years of the NBA, the most efficient half-court play in the last 10 years of the NBA has been a Jokic post-up. We're going old school. You throw it back in time. Think about that. For everything the NBA has been through, all the changes, the three-point line, the spacing, more and more and more deep-range shots, kind of go back in time. The most efficient play for the past 10 years, you have to have Jokic, but if you do, it's simple post-up with Jokic, and it makes a lot of sense, right? What he can do, he can turn around and shoot like Dirk could. He can pass it out like Magic could. If he misses, he can go up and get his rebound like Malone did. All of that stuff, even if it's not to the same extreme level of all those guys, he's got enough in his bag that he can he's a jack of all trades and a master of passing. That's the one I'd give him a master class, is on passing. Everything else that he's great, but I'd give him the master class on passing. Really the closest one up there in terms of passing. I mean, he's going to go down as, I honestly think he has to be, if he stays healthy, he's going to be top 5, top 3 all time in terms of passing. If he continues to really grow in the prime, we might even look at him as the greatest passer of all time, along Magic Johnson. I mean, this is how good this guy is. He's the most efficient half-court play in the past 10 years, and it's not even anything special. It's just a post-up. That's impressive. Not only that, Jokic is leading the playoffs in points, assists, and rebounds after last night. Or excuse me, not last night, after game 3. He's leading in points, rebounds, and assists. So we see these flashes from Jamal Murray. You might think that he's going to hold the points out. Nope, it's Jokic in every single category throughout these playoffs, Jokic is the best. So that right there doesn't spell good for the Miami Heat because they have a guy that is leading the playoffs in every single or at least in points, rebounds, and assists, and they have to go against him and probably lose this one out in 6 games. It's just a lot to overcome. Not only that, he's also eclipsed Steph Curry's record for the highest efficiency in terms of scoring per 100 possessions. Steph Curry's record for scoring per 100 possessions actually happened last year with 38.2 points per 100 possessions. Jokic just broke that with 38.5 points per 100 possessions. That's just incredible stuff. It's stuff that I don't know if everyone's appreciating what we're seeing. I think it's getting there. I think people are finally starting to catch on that watching this guy is a completely unique experience that you have to dial in and watch. He's going to be up there in all time in probably scoring, passing, and rebounding. He's going to crack top 25 in just about all of those if he can stay healthy. One of the best, well-rounded out players we've seen. And smart, too. Every now and then he will have some frustration files that will cause the team some trouble, but for the most part, he keeps it pretty checked. Even when teams are flopping on him, my favorite part is if you ever watch Jokic, when opposing teams start flopping on Jokic and Jokic picks up a foul after a flop, Jokic takes that and he does it right back. And it gets a little egregious sometimes. He will continuously flop and flail until he gets a foul from the ref, just to kind of look at the other guy being like, if that's how you want to play it, we'll play that style. And I will rack you up with just as many fouls as you want to rack me up with. Just unique. His personality, his demeanor, the whole team in general doesn't seem to get shaken up very much. You're kind of worried. After that Game 2 loss at home, you wanted to see how they'd respond. They were 9-0 at home in the playoffs. That was their first loss. You finally take an L at home in the playoffs. You know, how do you bounce back from that? You're going on the road to Miami on a loss, and you're going to have to find a way to bounce back. And they did more than bounce back. I mean, it was what I'd like to call a pretty dominant performance. 20 rebounds by Jokic. All that stuff's going to put you just in an entirely new stratosphere. And this is my point with Jokic. He's just dominating these playoffs in a way we haven't really seen before. In this 2023 playoff run, Jokic has tied or beaten the career playoff highs of LeBron James in points, Chris Paul in assists, and Joel Embiid in rebounds. We're not talking this playoffs. We're talking playoff highs. He has tied or beaten LeBron James in points, Chris Paul in assists, and Joel Embiid in rebounds. 3 MVPs, 2 in LeBron and Steph Curry, guys that we consider in the circle of greatest of all time. I mean, Steph, maybe you don't give that limelight, but if you look at the rings, if you're a ring counter, then you're going to throw him up there. And then Chris Paul, known as one of the best true point guards of all time in terms of how he's able to move the rock, get assists, and just keep his team in a steady flow of offense. And you heard that stat. Jokic has already tied or surpassed those guys in all those categories. The guys that we consider the best today, Jokic is better than them. And that's just where we're at. What more information do you need on Jokic being the best player in the NBA? The most efficient play in the past 10 years. A Jokic post-up. A guy that's already eclipsed the records in points for LeBron James, assists for Chris Paul, and rebounds in Joel Embiid. A guy that broke Steph Curry's record for most points per 100 possessions. A guy in the playoffs right now that has the more points, more rebounds, and more assists than anybody else had all playoffs. The numbers spell out a horrifying guy from Sambar that just plays the game at a level we frankly haven't seen. And if this continues, I truly believe that we might be in a Nuggets heavy era. It might really happen where the next dynasty, especially if they can find a way to stay healthy, you can mix and match players around Jokic and Murray pretty easily. Get guys that can shoot and guys that have size that can backdoor cut. Jokic will find him and he'll do the rest. Knock down open jump shots and learn how to cut off the ball. And let Jamal Murray do his thing off the two-man game. I mean, you see it all the time. One thing that doesn't even get appreciated about Jokic is he's got an elite screen too. It's a little convoluted to kind of rate those on who sets the hardest screens, but I'm throwing him up there. I'm throwing Brook Lopez up there. I'm throwing Valanciunas up there. But that's just a world of problems. You saw it in the last game. Jokic had a screen, and it completely just knocked Kyle Lowry to the ground. And it wasn't an illegal screen. It was legit. He just caught Kyle Lowry not paying attention, and Jokic didn't flinch, set the screen, Murray rolled off, and Lowry hit the deck. The guy just has so many tools to his game. It's truly just an amazing thing to watch. With that being said, though, we will go ahead and throw it to our last break here. We'll have about 10 minutes on our last segment. We'll kind of dive in on everything I didn't get to. I do want to dive into the Chris Paul story. Wonder where that goes, because they might even tie in Ayton. Chris Paul and Ayton possibly on the move. So we'll talk about that on the next segment. We'll have about 10 minutes. I'm Harrison Arens. This is the Hoops IQ Check podcast. And again, if you guys want to join the show, start a Heyman text line 402-464-5685. I'll throw it to break here, and I'll catch you guys on the other side.
General contractors, business owners, property owners. The success of your business requires doing business with the right people. And the right people, when it comes to drywall, acoustical ceilings, and specialty products, are at Premier Drywall. Kevin and his crew will give your project the response and attention it deserves.
You'll get all of the attention to detail and quality that you would expect from someone who's been in the business for 30 years. For your new builds, build-outs, or renovations, reach out to Kevin. Kevin at PremierDW.com. Premier Drywall in Lincoln.
The Ticket Water Cooler.
I feel like sometimes when we have Hall of Fames, and this is no disrespect to Frank or Gary Pinkel, who got in last year, the longtime Missouri coach. Shouldn't there be a different Hall of Fame for like Gary Pinkel and Frank Solich
like
and
the Hall of
Tom Osborne
the
and Bob,
Hall of
you know,
really,
Bobby
really,
Bowden?
really, really
Yeah,
good.
right. But what, like you said, the distinction usually is first ballot, or unanimous or whatever. So that's usually kind of the distinction that you can make there.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
I wanted to quit for so long, but I didn't know where to start.
I was afraid of what people would think, but then I found the right support to start my recovery journey. 1 in 14 Americans reports experiencing a substance use disorder, a treatable medical condition. Treatment can take many forms, so there are a variety of options to explore and find the one that works best for you. Recovery from drug addiction is possible.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
If you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide or experiencing a mental health or substance use crisis, call 988 for free, confidential, and compassionate support. On July 16th, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is transitioning to 988. There is hope. For 24/7 support, call, text, or chat 988.
Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS, aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Start your Sundays off right with Jeff and Nicole Essink on Fitness Fanatics. Jeff and Nicole discuss health and wellness, how to achieve fitness goals, and more through the life of gym owners and gym goers. It's Fitness Fanatics from 9 to 11 a.m. on Sundays on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
Malachi Coleman's going to have an opportunity to play as a true freshman because he's dedicating himself right now. 700 balls. If Malachi Coleman is catching 700 balls, he's going to have stick 'em for catches. Then he ain't going to miss much. And the kid is 6'5", 6'6", can jump. Malachi Coleman's taking it serious. He's getting bigger, faster, stronger, smarter. Do you think Malachi Coleman not in the playbook? You can catch 1,000,000 balls. If you don't know what you're doing, it ain't gonna matter.
Papa, why telegraph while riding a horse? Son, there ain't no one to blame but Jeffro. He was riding old Betsy the Stallion, tip-tapping away and ran right into the side of the saloon. Well, if Jeffro can't do it, neither should you. Don't text and drive.
Visit stoptextstoprex.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? By their clothes, their age, the way they speak? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? Or a 14-year-old girl who signs up to every after-school activity not to make friends, but just to get something to eat? Or a retiree who fell ill and had to choose
between getting medicine or groceries.
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. People you pass by every day but never knew were hungry. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why am.org. Brought to you by Feeding America, 200 Food Banks Strong, and the Ad Council.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get, and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Paid for by the CDC. Sponsored by Nebraska DHHS. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
This is how we do every day. We be grinding, and if you want to come and text us,
if you love them enough to turn off your music and pretend like their music is your music,
this is Mommy's jam.
then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car seat.
Let's play it again.
Check today at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is your captain. We are going to be experiencing some slight turbulence. Please fasten your... Oh, hold on. Just got a video of my cat.
Imagine the pilot of an airplane was as confident as you are texting and driving. Seems kind of crazy when you put it like that.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
All right, welcome back into my final segment of the Hoops IQ Check. And again, if you guys want to join the show, Starter Heyman text line 402-464-5685. And if you want to put a face to the voice, a good way to do that is through Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, or Twitter, as well as Allo for all our Allo subscribers, channel 951 on Allo. Great way to join the show and engage in the conversation that way. But we got about, 9 minutes here or so. Not a ton of time. A few things I want to get to that I didn't have time for. First one, Chris Paul, where does he end up? We already know that he is currently being waived by the Phoenix Suns, 48 hours to be claimed. If he's not claimed, essentially just opens up the market for him, and then things really get interesting. But I do imagine he will be claimed. But from Richard Jefferson, he's tweeting that everything is indicating that Ayton is gone. So what this says to me is that the claim is obviously being looked at by multiple teams, and in that claim, to make things work, it looks like Ayton would actually be on the move as well. That's how I see it. So the next team that Chris Paul goes to, it seems like he is going to be followed with DeAndre Ayton. And that kind of sets up some curiosity, because now I'm looking at the Suns, and although Ayton wasn't my favorite, big in the league, I felt like he was a guy that came into the league really strong and promising, had some growth in his second year, and it's just plateaued. He hasn't continually gotten better. So that's a tough one for me. He's glass half full, glass half empty. Do you trust him to make the continuous progression in the offseason, or are you okay with the plateau? Because the salary isn't cheap, and you're hoping for growth. That's what you're paying for. So again, keep an eye on that one. It looks like when Chris Paul gets to his next team, don't be surprised if Ayton's there with him. That's the way I'm reading this. With Richard Jefferson's tweet, he's pretty much saying all indications are saying his time with Phoenix is over. Very well could be he's just going to another team, but I imagine that there is a team out there claiming Chris Paul, and to get the salary to work or just to add some extra depth, they're looking at 8-2 to make things work. So that one definitely kind of came as a surprise. I guess if you're the Phoenix Suns, if you're getting rid of Chris Paul, all bets are off on who's safe and who's not. Other than Devin Booker, that's the only guy you're really going to keep. It's essentially his team, especially after last season. Kevin Durant was still solid. Don't get me wrong, but it always felt like Devin Booker's team. Kevin Durant, especially in the playoffs, he never really had those takeover moments that you were hoping for. And especially with the Nuggets, you saw the Nuggets do a really good job just kind of making them uncomfortable with their size. And despite having some good games in there, he didn't have enough to quite close it. And again, this is why the Nuggets might be the best playoff team in the past 5 years. They have the best net rating overall in these playoffs. Jokic has essentially shattered every of the greatest players in the league today. This is a Denver team that's going to be back over and over again if they stay healthy. Just putting that out there. Moving on here. Problems in New Orleans with Zion Williamson, the guy that was a clear favorite to kind of be the face of the NBA. That is a serious problem for the NBA. If I'm the NBA, I'm leaning foreign. Who do I want to be the face of the NBA? Jokic looks pretty good to me. Giannis looks pretty good to me. A lot of these guys that are actually foreign look like the better candidates. John Morant looked awesome for a while. Don't need to dive into that. Why that's just not going to work anymore. The whole case too. I don't know where to begin with that one. It's going back and forth. Looks like they're part of John Morant's team's kind of fighting it, saying it's a toy gun. I don't know what to believe at this point. I think it's just trying to lessen the sentence because the way Adam Silver's talking, we might not see John Morant until the All-Star break. That's kind of what I'm getting from the way he talks about it. And it's a little bit funny. Adam Silver, 101. If you do not want John Morant to take away from the playoff or the finals, the best way to do that is just stop opening up every conversation with the John Morant story. He's talked about it before every game, it feels like. If you don't want him to be the story of the finals, stop talking about it. Just a weird one. I normally respect Adam Silver and how he handles his business, but to me, that's just kind of common sense. I don't know why he keeps talking about John Morant. You guys have all the information. None of us do. What do we need to know, if anything? And if you want everyone to move away from it, you got to stop talking about it. But nonetheless, let's get off the John Morant case. Because again, like I said, I don't know. I'm sure you guys don't know. Adam Silver and John Morant are the only people that really know. So we'll leave it at that. But he was supposed to kind of be the face of the league because the Zion thing just was not working. He was hurt. John Morant's career was taking off. The Grizzlies were becoming a real threat. Not only was he a good player, he's so fun to watch. And I don't care what you think about him. When he comes back to the league, he's always going to be fun to watch. But the Grizzlies have also kind of put on the teams, the NBA's darlings to the NBA's villains. The Dylan Brooks saga, ugly. John Morant, the gun situation, one time bad, two times you got to be kidding me. Just everything about the Grizzlies flipped in a hurry. So the NBA is just scrambling to look for the face of the league. LeBron is not that far away from retirement, and they still do not have a guy. Despite LeBron being in the league for years, they haven't found a replacement. Steph Curry could have been that replacement, but unfortunately, they kind of both were peaking around the same time with all those final runs over and over and over again. And no one younger than him, aside from these foreign players, there's no one outside that's really been able to take the face of the NBA. That's a problem. You need to sell the NBA. Do you know how much money LeBron James makes the NBA? Not just here in the US, but overseas as well. So much money. That is why you need a face of the league. A guy that sells tickets, sells, all the streaming services, sells all those subscriptions, sells shoes, just brings awareness to the game at a level you don't normally see. The way Kobe did it, the way LeBron did it, the way Michael Jordan did it. There isn't an obvious favorite. I think you lean into the national players. Make Jokic the face of the league if that's what it takes. With these guys, they got to start winning. If Jokic wins this year and he can find a way to win it again next year, you might have to start thinking about the face of the league as a foreign player. You look at the best players across the league, it's foreign. Giannis, Luka, Jokic. That's just a few. And there's obviously a lot of great American players, but it feels like the cream of the crop as of late has been a lot of these foreign guys. So it kind of makes you wonder how they're going to transition off this. They don't have a face of the league. Zion in New Orleans, all sorts of crazy stuff going on Twitter, him and his girl problems. We'll just leave it at that. Putting all his business out there for everyone to read. Just very unfortunate if you're Zion, but I mean, you got to be playing smarter than that. So now Zion's in trouble. It seems that a lot of what's coming out of the New Orleans camp as well, people are upset with Zion. It doesn't seem that everyone over in New Orleans understands why it's taking Zion Williamson so much time. And it's really starting to bother players, I think. I think they're getting sick of it. I think they've kind of ruined Zion just the way they've handled him. They were, I think, just overly cautious. They played it so cautious, and look where it's got them. It could just be a Zion problem. Maybe he's not showing up. Maybe they have to be cautious because they don't know where he's at because he won't even show up. But Zion has kind of taken a nasty fall down in New Orleans to where at one point in time, the Mountain Dew commercials, the Jordan commercials, everything, Zion, 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 and you don't hear a peep about it anymore. I mean, that's just kind of how far he's fallen off. And now you're hearing things about New Orleans camp that they're kind of getting tired of not really knowing what's taking so long with the injuries, with the weight, all that stuff.
Old school with...
Excuse me on that one. That was not supposed to be going there. This one is what we need. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys listening. We're going to wrap things up here. And before I want to wrap up every show, I just want to give everyone a quick fact, something I can, once again, add to the repertoire, make everyone they know, get the vibe that you're a big-time Hoops fan. So your fact for the day that you can end up with, that you can tell your friends after the show, Ray Allen, his real name, Ray Allen's first real name, is actually Walter. So Walter Allen, just one for you that I don't think anyone out there probably knows without doing some Googling. But nonetheless, wrap it up here. This was the debut of the Hoops IQ Check. Again, I appreciate you guys so much for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday night, and I will see you guys next week.
Jackson.
Malachi Coleman's going to have an opportunity to play as a true freshman because he's dedicating